Hello, Education 2220 students. I hope everyone is having a great week. So, we are already in Module 2. So, this module is really going to explore the referral in terms of seeing if a child is eligible for receiving special education services. So, we're really going to talk about that eligibility process, guided by IDA, Section 504, talk about RTI. So, we're going to really go over all of those big main components. So, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be first starting out looking at what the objectives are. So, aside from looking at the referral process and the assessment process in special ed, we're really going to look at the required components of a quality IEP, which is that individualized education program. Some examples of related services, as well as accommodation for those students who are not eligible to receive special education services. It's important for you to look at these keywords and concepts so you can see the definitions and also those legal course rulings. We talked a lot about that in Module 1 that impacted and shaped when we're talking about IDA and the pre-referral process. Okay, so make sure you look at that. I want to show you what you're going to be doing specifically. I have lots of resources here. I have your assessment and your quiz. So I'm just going to kind of walk down the list and walk you through this week and what the expectations are. So the first thing I want to note is that you're going to be using three different materials to help you. You're obviously going to be reading in your textbook, today's inclusive classrooms. You're going to read chapter 3. This is just really talking about IDA, Section 504 ADA. It's going to explain what RTI is, the referral and eligibility process, the concept of LRE and how that plays a role when we're talking about placement and developing those high quality, not only goals, but creating the IEP statements as well. Then you're going to look at the supplemental guide to special education, a teacher's guide, and you're going to read 2, 3, and 4. They're very short. And it's following along with chapter 3, right? It's going to go over IEP, it's going to go over the eligibility process, the process of testing and assessing. And then also, I want you to look at the Tennessee Special Education Framework, specifically 1.2 component and component 2 itself. And again, that's in line with chapter 3 in our objectives. After you do that, I want you to see that I do have two different presentations in here for you. I have a Nearpod presentation, which is very interactive. It's going to give you quizzes. You're going to have some questions, a collaborate board. So it's very interactive. You're going to have an activity that you're going to be completing using the Nearpod presentation. So, what I would suggest first is to read the required readings before jumping into your presentations and your Nearpod presentation and activity. So, you will be using an activity called Meet Bella, and you'll be working with it to develop a statement for Bella in regards to her IEP. So, I will kind of walk you through it real quick. So, what you're going to do is there are required components of an IEP, and one of them is what we call the present levels of academic achievement and functional performance, also known as PLAAFP. And what you're going to do is you're going to not only look at IEPs, which are underneath our course resources, we have some training IEPs, and we're going to go through and we're going to pick one or two, and we're going to go through and look at all the different components of it. But after you do that, you're going to really look at a student. So I'm going to give you a case study student, and you're going to have to try to read about her statement and then see if you can rewrite it to make it more measurable, but also to make it a high quality statement. There's also a link in the Nearpod presentation taking to a webpage that talks about how high quality PLAAFP statements are actually created. So you'll have that activity. Now, I have the actual activity down here, which is Meet Bella. And what you will do is you will submit that into the same Dropbox as the Iris module. So when you click on it, it's going to bring up the document. This is what you will download. You will type directly into this assignment, and then that's what you will submit into Dropbox. Now, when you go to Dropbox, it's going to be underneath the same Dropbox as IEP, where you're going to put your IRIS module assessment questions. So you're going to be submitting two to that same Dropbox. What you also have for this week is I gave you an IEP team process video. If you don't want to watch it, you could read the transcript that's available for you as well. I do have a link, so here's the video. And if you don't want the video, again, like I said, you have that. You also have a link about how you can tell if an IEP goal is considered SMART and what does that actually mean. And then after that, what you're going to do is you're going to review the PowerPoint presentations. It's called RTI Evaluations and Eligibility Presentation. Now, these are in line with IDEA federal guidelines as well as the state Tennessee Department of Education underneath special education eligibility and evaluations. So it's important for you to look at that. I will tell you this presentation is in line with the Module 2 quiz and our test bank for our exam. So make sure that you review that as well as the Nearpod presentation, specifically looking at IEPs. And then underneath all of those resources, you are going to have your activities. Remember, I will be grading you on the PLAAFP statement, but you also have your Module 2 quiz as well as your IEP IRIS module. So, if you remember when we had our first week and we were going through the Getting Started module, I had a section called Course Resources. And in that section, it talked about IRIS modules. So, IRIS modules are there to help students. They're kind of like professional developments. And what I want you to do is I want you to go through this module. Okay, when you click on it, it's going to look like this. There are links to access different parts of the module. So, you have and these were created by Vanderbilt University. So you're going to click on to access. The first section is developing a high quality IEP or individualized education program. So that will take you directly to that part of the module. There is an attached note sheet. Now, I do want to note that this is the note sheet that you are not going to be submitting to the Dropbox. This is going to help you with Module Quiz 2. It's a study guide. The second part of the module is called What's Included in an IEP Document. You're going to click on the link. It will take you to that part of the IRIS module. Then lastly, you have a second note sheet here. Now, this is the one that you are required to submit to Dropbox, okay, about the IEP section. Now, in IRIS modules, there are assessments. I suggest you walk through it. It kind of just gives you automatic feedback to see kind of what you're struggling with and what you do really well with. So that's kind of a way for you to quiz yourself. That's why I did not give you a Kahoot game or a Quizlet this week, because you're going to use the interactive gaming and questions assessments inside the IRIS module, as well as completing the activity inside the Nearpod. So you got built-in quizzes and assessments there. And then again, you have your module two quiz. Remember, the quiz, you are allowed to take them as many times as you can. The highest attempt will be recorded. You have this window to take it, and you'll see when it closes. Um, also wanted to remind you on your service learning, I've had several people who have completed their application. You've already joined the teams, which is great. So make sure you're working on getting your background check as well as purchasing liability insurance. You will see here I put a notification to remind you that the service learning release hold harmless is due September 11th, which is a Thursday. So just make sure that you look at that. Okay. Um, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. This module is very important. It kind of piggybacks off of the IDA and all the legislation, litigation, and course case laws that we had in that first module. So, all right, until next time, take care.